The gunshot cracked through the still air. The bullet skimmed past the porch post, slicing a splinter that brushed Clara Dawson's cheek. She didn't flinch. She only tilted her head slightly, like someone hearing a familiar song played wrong. For 3 long years, Ironwood Ranch had been hers alone, her and the cattle, the wind, the wolves. She'd fought droughts, storms, and men who said a woman, especially a black woman, couldn't own land out here. Now, one of them had come again. Grant Maddox, hat pulled low, leaned from his horse at the fence line. "Just a friendly reminder, Miss Dawson," he drawled. "Railroad's coming through this stretch. Best not be in the way." Clara said nothing. She lifted her Winchester, the metal catching sunlight. The warning shot hit the ground inches from his horse's hooves. The animal screamed. Maddox cursed, color burning in his face. "Next time," she said quietly, "I won't miss." He spat dust and turned away, his men following, dust curling behind them like smoke from a dying fire. When they vanished, Clara stood still, rifle tight in her grip. Only when the wind sighed through the porch rafters did she breathe again. As the sun sank behind the ridge, Ironwood Valley glowed like molten brass. Then came hoofbeats, slow, steady, drawing closer. From the trail, a tall man on a dark horse stopped at her gate. Broad shoulders, weathered coat, eyes gray as cold smoke. "You one of Maddox's men?" she asked, voice steady. He shook his head. "No, ma'am. Just passing through." She studied him. Calm, dangerous calm. "You shoot well," he said. "For someone living alone." "The ones who live," she answered, "learn how." He nodded slightly. "Heard you're hiring." "I can ride, mend, and I don't talk much. Ironwood doesn't hire liars." He smiled faintly. "Good thing I only lie halfway." She stared, then said, "Best turn back before dark." He nodded once, no anger, just quiet respect, and rode off. Clara watched until he disappeared beyond the pines, wondering why the silence suddenly felt heavier than before. Morning came soft and silver over Ironwood Ranch. Mist curled above the fields like ghostly smoke. Clara stepped out with her coffee, and saw him again. The stranger, down by the creek, washing the trail dust from his hands. He looked up when she called. "You came back because of yesterday?" He nodded. "You were right. Ironwood doesn't hire liars." Then after a pause. "I heard you needed a man to drive the herd north. I can ride, rope, and read the weather. Don't need much pay." Clara studied him, wary but curious. His coat was worn but clean, boots polished, hands calloused but neat. Not a drifter. Not a fool. "Where'd you hear that?" she asked. "Dry Bend Saloon. Someone said you needed help." She gave a dry laugh. "They say plenty in Dry Bend, like how I should sell this land or die trying to keep it." He met her gaze. "I only believe in folks who shoot back when they're threatened." That stopped her. The wind carried the smell of wet grass and smoke from the cookhouse. She stepped closer to the creek. "Ironwood's not kind land," she said. "Anyone who stays learns quick. Can you stand the heat, the dust, and the looks?" He tilted his head. "If I've survived worse, I can survive what's real." She watched him. He didn't boast, didn't beg, just stood there, calm as stone. Finally, she said, "You can try a week. But if you're working for Maddox, I'll find out." He smiled, that quiet half-smile again. "Fair enough. What's your name?" "Luke Mercer," he said. "West Barn. Noon. Always on time, Miss Dawson." As he turned away, she realized her heartbeat was running faster than it should. Not from fear, but from something she hadn't felt in years, curiosity. By the third morning, the ranch had fallen into rhythm again, hammering beams, lowing cattle, wind sighing through the hills. Luke worked quiet and sure. No bragging, no wasted motion. Even Miguel, her old hand, nodded in approval. But word traveled fast. And by noon, Dry Bend town was buzzing. They rode in together, Clara and Luke, buying salt, seed, and nails. People stopped to stare, a black woman and a white man, side by side, talking like equals. Then came trouble. Grant Maddox stepped out of the saloon, flanked by two slick-faced men. He grinned. "Well, look who's still breathing. The Lady of Ironwood herself." Luke set down the crate he was carrying, eyes sharp. "Still think you own that land?" Maddox sneered. "A woman like you, holding better ground than white men. God must be laughing." Clara's hand hovered near her holster. The air tightened. Luke stepped forward, voice calm. "You've had your say. Now ride on." Maddox's grin faltered, but pride held him in place. "You her hired help, boy? Or her pet?" Luke's gaze turned to ice. "Neither. But I do know how to bury trash." The silence cracked like thunder. Maddox's men tensed, but Clara's voice cut through. "Get off my land, Grant. And take your coward's mouth with you." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Maddox spat in the dust and turned away. When he was gone, Luke looked at Clara. "You shouldn't have to stand alone." "I've done it most my life," she said. "Doesn't mean you should keep doing it," he replied softly. Something in her chest shifted, like the first thaw after a hard winter. That night, rain swept across Ironwood Ranch, hard and cold. Thunder rolled through the valley. Clara sat by the fire, wrapped in a blanket, when the door creaked. Luke stepped in, soaked from the downpour. "You'll catch your death," she said. "Been dead before," he answered with a small grin. They sat across from each other, firelight flickering between them. After a while, Clara asked, "Why'd you really come here, Luke Mercer?" He looked into the flames. "To find something I lost." "What was that?" "Faith." She was quiet. Then he said, "I worked for Maddox once. Left before I became like him." Her eyes softened, the firelight dancing in them. "Why tell me that?" "Because you've earned more truth than I have," he said simply. The room fell still. Outside, rain whispered on the roof. When her fingers brushed his by accident, neither pulled away. The kiss came slow, like breath after silence. Warm. Honest. Real. No promises, just understanding. Two souls who had forgotten what tenderness felt like, finding it again by the fire. By dawn, the storm had passed. And when Clara woke, Luke lay beside her, the light touching his face soft as mercy. She knew then, everything had changed. The days that followed were the gentlest Ironwood had ever seen. Luke repaired fences, taught the ranch kids their letters, and laughter returned to the valley. Miguel said the land hadn't sounded alive since Clara's father died. One evening, when the sun dipped gold behind the hills, Luke stood by the old elm, hat in hand. Clara met him halfway, brushing chalk from her hands. "You're late," she teased. "A marshal's work is never on time," he said, smiling. "But I brought something." He opened his palm, a small silver ring, engraved inside. Ironwood, 1884. "I can't promise to protect you from everything," he said. "But I can promise I won't walk away." She looked at him for a long moment, then smiled softly. "Then stay." They married that autumn under the ironwood sky, no band, no flowers, just wind, sunlight, and the sound of children singing. Months later, Clara called him from the porch, hands resting on her belly, eyes bright. He ran to her and held her close, both laughing through tears. And for the first time, Ironwood wasn't just land, it was home. A place built not from wood or stone, but from trust, forgiveness, and a love that stayed. Studio Microphone, thank you for staying till the end of this story. If this ending touched your heart, leave a line below, because sometimes love doesn't arrive loud. It just stays. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, for more Wild West love stories like this one.